Hello, can you hear me? Hello,
That
good
we can,
afternoon.
yes.
Sorry, that was a bit. Thank you so much. Let me just share my presentation. So, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity and for joining me in this very hot afternoon. So my name is Maria Mendez, and I'm a Spanish teacher at South Bank International School, but also I'm pastoral head of year 13, which is, as you know, the last year at a school before the students go into university or whatever they decide to do next. I would like to share with you a few ideas for embedding a digital well-being culture in your curriculum. So as you can see, I changed slightly the title to make it a little bit more relevant and a little bit more interesting to you, hopefully. So these ideas, I know that you are mostly university professors, but hopefully it will give you a little glimpse into what is happening at the schools, and also it will encourage a discussion about digital wellness post-pandemic, and maybe it inspires you to read a little bit more or do some of the activities with your students at the beginning of your lessons or of your courses. So first of all, why is it so important to develop a digital well-being culture amongst our students right from secondary school? So we know that after the pandemic, after COVID, the students and young people in general are more addicted to their phones than ever. We know that they are spending far too much time in front of the screens. They are not benefiting enough from the emotional connections generated through face-to-face conversation. We all know that. Therefore, we must strengthen the connection with our students and amongst the students. We also know that there is an overconsumption of social media that is leading to a variety of mental health conditions such as OCD, anxiety, or even eating disorders. So we feel the need to encourage them to be emotionally alert or more emotionally alert so that they can be more aware of the world around them and hopefully learn better. So I'm going to talk to you about 8 activities that have been tried and tested with our students in year 13, and I will explore this in more detail. I will explore this in more detail later on, as I have written a couple of articles that I published. So if you are interested in any of them, you can read more about them. But first of all, one thing that has worked very well for us is to encourage students to write down their invisible fences. And with that, I mean rules designed to develop positive behaviors when using technology. So it can be, I use my phone as a tool and not as escape, or it can be, I'm going to check my email a couple of times during the day, or I'm going to choose the times that I check my email. So this can be an exercise that can be done with anybody, youngsters and adults. Then secondly, you could do something to promote something someone call digital, some people call digital laundry, which may be decluttering the desktop, it may be trashing some files, archiving some emails or even some other files, and generally have a little bit more mental space and checking all the space they have in their devices and where they are working at. Then next, introduce the concept of digital feng shui, a very fancy term to basically encourage the students to understand how the environment they are working at can affect their mood, can affect their attention span. And we did an activity called the Tech Graveyard that I believe you can find quite easily on Google. If you Google it, the Tech Graveyard, where they have to draw the space where they are working at. It can be during the pandemic, it could be the kitchen, it could be the room, it could be the library, it could be at a school even, or a university. And just understanding how all the devices they have in front of them, or even it can be a Fitbit, it can be a PlayStation next to them, it can be their mobile phone, it can be anything, can affect, or an Apple Watch, the latest trend, it can be something that can affect their productivity, their attention, their concentration, their well-being, ultimately. Then you could discuss some digital concepts that can affect our well-being. And I'm going to present them to you and do a little game. I'm testing you. But you could do this with your students with the jar exercise. I don't know if you're familiar with this. We use a lot in secondary schools. It's basically literally like a physical jar where they write little pieces of paper, the answer to a question or the meaning that they think define a concept. And they write this anonymously, and then you just pick all of these little papers and then you discuss it. So nobody feels everybody feels included, basically. So, for example, some concepts that are coming up now, especially after COVID, are phobbing, doom scrolling, sad fishing, or clickbait. So I give you a few seconds to try to match them with what you think they mean. So the tendency to surf or scroll through bad news, even if it is disheartening or saddening. Yes, so we'll say doom scrolling. So well done if you got it right. The social media content with a misleading headline designed to get readers to click through the full story, which is often a bit disappointing. Clickbait, the act of posting sensitive, emotional, personal material online to gain sympathy or attention from the online community. Sad fishing, or the practice of ignoring one's companion or companions in order to pay attention to one's phone or other mobile device is phobbing. So I'm sure you were already familiar with some of these terms. You have read them in the press, perhaps. But this is something that we are introducing to our students and giving them the tools and the understanding that this is happening, and they can recognize their behaviors and try to have a healthier relationship with the technology, really. So number 5, we also encourage them to apply the really rule. For example, you could say, do I really need to check my phone so many times? And that really rule can apply to anything. So do I really need to be checking my results compulsively on the school website? I don't know. It's just a silly, simple exercise that seems to help some of the students. You could discourage habits such as multitasking or an always-on culture, the fear of missing out. That seems to stress them out quite a lot. The God syndrome, I've got to do this, I've got to have this. And there are fun videos that you could present to them on YouTube about multitasking, to take it to the extreme, or that always-on culture. So that could apply to your subject, or you could take this topic in a more general way. Encourage them to have their autoplay button off. Sometimes if you ask them to watch a documentary and they don't take this off, and then they are taken to the next documentary or a silly series. So they can control over this. So they can take that autoplay button off. Netflix, Disney Plus, all of this, Amazon Prime. Turn off notifications, use inbox when ready, apps such as Forest to help them concentrate a little bit more, or control the amount of time they spend checking their emails, which they say, I have read that the average checking emails is 8 hours a day, according to a study. Quite scary. And then finally, I would say you could stop and think. We do this quite a lot in our lessons, stop and think. But this time for teachers, stop and think about your own practice. How many emails I'm sending, what time I'm sending them, are they strictly necessary, or even the materials you are posting, how long it's going to take them to access them, or can I find a better way for them not to use technology that much? Now, ways of keeping it up, keeping the discussion about digital well-being, or trying to embed a more general sense of well-being in your curriculum. It can be creative. Just think about ideas that you would like to try with your students. We have done short meditations in Spanish. I'm referring to my own subject at the beginning of a lesson or at the end, obviously in Spanish. Be creative about it and invest time on checking in with your students now more than ever to really foster that connectivity, those connections. Share good practice amongst yourselves. Send me an email if you are doing something amazing and putting things together in the hope that one day creating a bank of resources and a blog Use Twitter, TikTok, your own page, and look for opportunities to develop professionally as well. And I have published a couple of articles that explore a bit more ideas that talk about this subject a bit more in depth. The one is called The Digital Dilemma, and the other one is 6 Ideas to Promote Digital Wellbeing in Schools. And other ideas in terms of professional development. I did a course with the Digital Wellness Institute. So they have certificate courses that are really eye-opening for no matter what is your profession, really. Wellbeing Google as well. The Science of Wellbeing, I totally recommended by Professor Laurie Santos from Harvard University. A Stolen Focus is one of the latest books about how poorly the concentration levels are at the moment by using so much technology and how to improve that. And Atomic Habits, I'm sure you have heard about it, by James Clear. And then the podcast by Dr. Chatterjee, Feel Better, Live More, have some episodes dedicated to digital culture and how it can affect, but also it can help our well-being, exploring some apps. So thank you very much. I welcome any questions. And I also encourage you to send me some ideas if you have like this talk, if you would like to explore more things, if you are doing a project on it and you would like me to help or to contribute, I will be delighted. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maria. That was a great presentation, and there are lots of people in the chat who really like all the stuff that you've been coming up with, and I completely agree with the comment that's just gone in the chat. It says these are great to use with students, but also reminders for ourselves and our colleagues as well, and I think that's so true. We do have time for one quick question, so if you do have a question for Maria, if you could raise your hand, we will allow you to unmute your mic and you can ask Maria. Okay, there's no hands going up, but I can see there's a post here from Laura Bailey, so I'll read that out as well. And she said that there so many of the ideas in this are great, and they involve using a phone or other technology. And Laura said, how can we strike a good balance between using devices and not? I wonder if you had any thoughts on that.
Yes, and I was waiting for that question, because it's true that it's an irony that I'm talking about digital well-being and then I'm encouraging people to use the different apps, right, or to use their phone. Even one of the most amazing tools, and it's very simple, is for Laura, right, Laura, is using the screen time. So we have asked the students to actually, at the end of every week, they need to check their screen time, they need to discuss it amongst them. And it's really revealing, it's really scary when you put together all the amount of time that you have been on YouTube, the amount of time you have been on WhatsApp. So as a way of reflecting, striking a good balance, I think the change has to start in you. And I encourage you to really check some of the ideas that I have on the article and really be consistent about it. So maybe every week you can do a little bit of thinking, stop and thinking, if you really need to use that technology, or if you could do a bit of digital laundry, as I suggested, and delete all those apps that are not necessary in your mobile phone. So you can start today, Laura.
Brilliant, thank you. I guess in the interest of keeping time, we will have to move on, but I would just like to say a very special thanks to Maria, who I hope you don't mind me saying, Maria, gave birth 6 weeks ago to a little boy. So yeah, I don't know how you're awake, let alone able to speak so coherently. So thank you so much, and you're a superstar. Thank you.
Thank you so much.